All right. Let's get this out of the way first. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed on Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast are solely those of the speakers, guests, and host, and do not in any way represent the thoughts or views or opinions of any other employer, partnership, or sponsor. The material and information in this podcast is for general information purposes only and should be used at the listener's discretion.
Talk like a
I'm
robot.
not going to talk
Welcome
like a
back,
robot.
everyone, to the Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast. Here with
Is this
Angie.
on?
We're recording to the computer.
Okay, right. Sorry. I always forget.
Every time, almost. Welcome back. Angie wanted to change the format a little bit because she said we sound like a bunch of used car salesmen at the beginning of every episode. So we're going to read the ads at the end, let you know the discounts that we have at the end of the show. But I must say that your Frontline optics do look great right now. And they're 15% off of the code Tailboard. And we got big news from Rescue 1 CBD.
Oh, yes, we did.
Monster news. I was driving down to Champaign, Illinois for the AFFI
Health and Safety Conference.
Health and Safety Conference.
I was supposed to go.
Are we twins?
I did not.
And I got a text from John, the head dude over at Rescue 1 CBD, and it was a picture. And it was a picture of this little black circular tin with our logo sticker on it.
It was like Tailboard Talk Zinnies, but they weren't.
But they're not. They're nootropic and CBD, but non-nicotine.
Non-caffeine? Or
Not,
do you know that?
he just said non-nicotine.
Okay.
But they're going to be here tomorrow.
Yes!
So he sent us out an advanced package, and I said, how secret is this? And he says, you guys are part of the secret little leak
Alliance.
wave of this product release. They're also, he is the manufacturer. I sent you that too. So any feedback that we have, he can like tweak the machine.
I cannot wait to try these.
Pretty awesome.
And anyone who asks me, I'm just going to pretend like it's a Zin.
That'd be great. That'd be great. So that's huge. I think he said he's been working on it for a year. We're very excited about that. I think I quit nicotine pouches probably like 3 months ago now.
And I was going to pick it up, and then I didn't. But guess who started?
Ben?
Yep.
Sick.
My husband.
Sick.
And I was like, you tell me right now. I'm like...
Because the packet you bought was sitting there for 3
Yeah,
months?
that's exactly what happened. And he was just like, okay. And I'm like, do you do this? And he goes, sometimes. And I go, how often? I was like the interrogator.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, like at work sometimes.
He's like, I'm doing
and I'm
the
like,
thing that you bought.
so like every day at work? And he was
God.
like, well, yeah. And I'm like, so 5 times a week?
You're a miserable person. He's like, you literally brought them into our house, and now you're getting mad at me for trying them.
I know. Oh, man.
But this is good. So I stopped him because jury's still out on nicotine, much like caffeine, about like how it's going to affect my blood pressure. And until I get on another med to make sure it's good, I don't want to play with
I get that.
so much. So I quit.
It's smart.
And then once I get on that other med, though, watch out. But by that time, the Rescue 1 CBD pouches will be a thing, and I will be just slamming those things at a regular rate. So watch out for that. John, the Rescue 1 CBD guy, is going to start posting on his page and talking about it, so get ready for those. I'm sure once we get ours, we're going to be talking about them frequently.
And don't forget that our code Tailboard, you get 15% off.
Breaking your own rule. Good
I
job,
said,
you little used car salesman.
Just saying.
Next on the itinerary is the AFFI Health and Wellness thing, which...
Yes, Chris. Why don't you tell us? Tell us it all.
Well, it was very good. I haven't been to a conference in years. Like, I presented at the Illinois Firefighter Peer Support one a few times.
Okay.
But as for just attending, been a while. Been 5 or 6 years.
To be a student?
And it was nice because it was small. There was only like 250, 300 people there.
I was going to ask you how many people ended up showing up.
And there were some pretty heavy-hitting experts at this thing.
Oh, that's good.
Like the guy from Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln, Nebraska runs like 1 million or 2 calls a year. That's exaggerating. Like,
I was like,
you might,
wait,
you might
what?
actually believe that, so I don't want to over-exaggerate. If I said like,
I'm pretty gullible.
Your
like,
place does run
yes.
1 million. So that's actually not a good thing to joke about. But he's the EMS supervisor there, and they have a really in-depth system with the CPR Academy they run for citizens and all that. So he was giving all kinds of metrics and data about cardiac arrest stuff. The head of the state of Louisiana emergency management was there speaking to like a group of 20 people. And he's like, yeah, usually I present to like hundreds of people. He goes, but this is a smaller one. And we were like, tell me what happened at Katrina, and tell me what happened at Ike, and tell me what happened, all this stuff. He's like, let me pull up my slides for that. And he had all the radio traffic about everything. He went through radio traffic of Mardi Gras disasters where people ran into the ground with cars, or there were stabbings or shootings. He's like, here's the radio traffic overlay and the live footage from the security cameras. It was really cool. And then we had the wellness committee. So Joe Galley was there, Andy Scott, Danny Cook. They were all there. speaking about the wellness committee, and afterwards, they sat your boy down for a little talkie talk.
Oh, yes.
They had their podcast equipment there, and the question was,
Let's shit talk, Angie.
well, we did. The question was, tell me some things that your department's doing well and not doing well in terms of physical fitness and mental health and wellness. And we talked about that for about 3 seconds, and then just kind of went off on tangents and talking about the firefighter wellness ladder and generational differences.
Yeah.
And times we've overstepped, playing too rough with the new people.
Sure.
And yeah, so it was a 45-minute talk that was supposed to be 5-minute yes or no question. In the meantime, I brought up your CPAT vest dilemma.
Of course you did.
Because it was funny. Because Joe Galley was saying you guys have a really good dynamic where you both seemingly hate each other.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, you're both driving towards the same point, just in a very
different
combative
ways.
way.
Yeah, just in very different ways.
So yeah, it was good. So that was done by those two, Joe Galley and Andy Scott, as a filler because the AFFI podcast comes out like once every couple months when they can get all the big head honchos together. And so they're like, hey, well, while this conference is going on, let's just grab people and we'll do like 5 or 6 of these little mini interviews to fill in the gaps in the podcast. So they don't know when it's coming out, if it's coming out, but we also made plans on the side to have those two on and do like our own little episode just
cool.
in case the AFFI one takes a long time or gets chopped or whatever. So
for sure. So
but
what
it's a
did
good
you
conference.
learn? Did you learn anything?
Oh, I got a whole pad of stuff. Yeah.
Oh.
A lot of it's little stuff though.
Just little stuff.
It's basically like it's basically things that we're already doing in different categories. So like if you had 30,000 calls and 300 full arrests a year like Lincoln does, you would refine your practices a little bit, you know. So that's what they gave us. Like here's some little hacks to shorten your response time, shorten the Lucas donning time, assembling stuff beforehand, just little stuff that you take for granted, don't really think about. And then here's how it changed. So like just for instance, they were putting the Lucas on at the CPR break because they figured, and I think we do that a lot of times too, just advantageous wise, we're going to check for a pulse. And then during that pulse check, we're going to say yes or no for a shock. And then we're going to put the Lucas on and get going. And that seems like it fits, right? One long pause.
Yeah,
and
right.
Good. Science says don't ever do that. Science says 2 shorter pauses.
Right,
no
less
more
than 10 seconds,
yeah.
right?
So intuitively, you're like, that's a great time to put that on. They started doing it in the middle of a CPR circuit, in the middle of a 2-minute cycle, and it decreased their donning time from like 45 seconds to a minute to like less than 20 seconds of getting the Lucas on because that's all
good.
they were doing. They weren't doing a 10-second pause for pulse check and then screwing around with Lucas if they needed it or not. There's too
Right.
much decision reflex time. The other thing they did was, what was it where they cut it down? Putting the pads on a cardiac patient that's confirmed ACS protocol, you put the pads on the person. And they said we just weren't doing that because everybody was there, and if the person passed out or went into VTAC or VFib, we would just put the pads on and it didn't seem very long, right? Well, they looked at, because they could pull the data from their monitors, when the person went in VTAC or VFib, and then time to the first shock. And it was like between a minute 20 to a minute 45 seconds, which seems like no way. But then you think about it, it's like, okay, recognizing it, doing
And
some,
then putting the pads on.
getting
and
everything
then
going,
everything,
yeah.
Then you're having to
if
set
they
the
put the
tools.
pads on to a person who was an ACS patient, it brought the first shock time down to like less than 30 seconds because you just charge it and go for it.
I mean, you'd rather have them on than off. Well, you never know.
You'd think so, right?
You never know.
But if you have chest pain that's borderline and there's like elevation in 1, you're like, no big deal. But that person gets the pads too, right?
That's a good, I agree with that.
So it was a lot of little stuff like that. And then he went into like broader data and trends and what worked, what didn't work.
Anywho.
Okay. Confessions.
Oh.
New segment.
These are my confessions.
Tailboard Confessions.
New segment.
Do you know why? This might be too old for you. It's going to be right
will
in the
be,
wheelhouse for a
'cause you're
couple
old.
people. I know.
Go ahead.
Do you know why Tailboard Confessions sounds like such a natural name for a topic segment title?
No.
Because there was a show on at one point called Taxi Cab Confessions on HBO.
Really?
Oh my God.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
It was not on during
You got
the day.
me on that. I really don't know what that is.
We can cut that part out potentially. But we have a confession. And this one came in very quick, and it was an amazing one. Let me just read you here. When I was very, very new, I was first into a townhouse fire with a reported victim. Found him, frantically worked to rescue this person. And then it says, feel free to cut this part out because it's gross. We
We're not cutting that out.
Person was long gone, very burnt. Every attempt to pull, lift,
Slough.
drag,
Slough.
whatever, was just degloving whatever I grabbed onto. The end result, I worked to complete exhaustion, getting him absolutely nowhere. My lieutenant came up behind me and realized there was nothing to save. He then had me finish extinguishing the fire and told me to take my axe and clear out a window to vent the smoke. When I grabbed my axe and attempted to pop the window, I just threw the axe straight through the window. I was so exhausted, I couldn't even grip the handle any longer. I was completely embarrassed because I threw an axe into the front lawn in front of everybody. And then it says, just as a side note, I've also gotten out of the rig with my headphones
headset on multiple
times, which I've done too.
That's embarrassing.
And
we
that
don't
is
have
very
headsets.
embarrassing.
I wish
What?
we did.
What'd you
Yeah,
say?
I'm going deaf. We don't have headsets.
We don't have time to get into that right
no,
now.
we won't.
So
anyway,
that's exactly what we're looking for with
but I love that
confessions.
because I can just picture someone just like eating an axe through a window and just being in the front like,
That's
what
up.
the hell was that?
Yoink!
So that's a good one. So we're going to be continuing this segment, I think, every episode. I do have a really funny one for next time.
Okay.
So
Yeah, somebody
can't wait
said
for
Angie
that
knows
one.
a story about my
Oh
Facebook
my gosh.
meet up with a naked
You cannot
guy.
make this crap up either. It was. I cannot wait to tell it next
Okay.
episode.
Next episode. The topic you wanted to get into this week
Yeah.
was happy times.
Yeah.
Because you had a happy time, it sounds like.
Yeah, I did. So
You told everybody except for me what happened, and
well, I mean, I think this
We'll
kind
learn
of
about it
like
here.
roll, except for me. You told everybody except for me.
I'm sure Ben's going to find out too as soon as this episode comes out.
So basically, I was having a conversation. That's all it happened within a week. Having a conversation about how, and I'm totally guilty of having like negative energy. You laugh.
Guilty.
Of course, no, I am guilty.
She's raising her hand right now.
I was talking to someone newer, and I always think about like when I first started this, it didn't matter what call that I was going to come in. I was always so excited for like any call that would come in, when you first start and you don't even care. Like it could be a lift assist and you were just like, yeah, let's go. Like everything is brand new. It's exciting. It's whatever. And then we're finding that a lot of newer people are almost becoming like jaded, like 2 months in.
Pre-existed
Like,
jaded.
yeah, like it was like, it's crazy. And I had a conversation with one of the newer people and I said, do you think that it has a lot to do with the people around you? Like, let's say, if the people around you are being jaded or being upset about these calls coming in and they're saying negative things and they're not excited and it's all this negative talk, like, do you think that plays a big role in like you not getting excited for calls anymore? And he was like, absolutely. And he said it does drive a big impact on these new people.
Yeah.
And we are supposed to be setting examples for these people to, and I get it. Like we get, some of the same calls all the time. They're not, super exciting. And we never want things to be happening that are bad to people, but I get that part. And anyway, he said, yeah, he was like, if I was around people, let's say that person's got excited for every call we got. Whenever it was like a fall and stuff, I'd probably not feel the way I feel when I'm getting these calls. So just a reminder that what we do does impact the people around us, the new people around us pretty heavily. And if you feel a certain way about a certain call, just like keep it inside, probably not outside. Don't say it out loud. I say things with my face, and so I know I need work with that for sure. I'm completely guilty of negative energy at times if other things are, bothering me or whatever. So I'm definitely going to be working on that one for sure because I don't want anyone to feel that way. Or I don't want to impact someone like that.
No, you're not, but it's fine because that's just who you are, right?
No.
So the important part, like if you were on my crew and you were just being a crank with all these calls and we had a new person, it's not necessarily your job to be someone you're not just because there's a new person around, right? You can temper it with some stuff. Like if you regularly bash the chief and I'm like, hey, tone it down while so-and-so is here because let's just chill out. That's one thing. But I work with cranky guys, and when we have new guys in, we make a point to tell them,
Such
like...
a buzzkill.
Yeah, but it's kind of
Even
funny.
for me.
It depends on the kind of cranky, right? Like, we got some pretty cranky guys that we have... They're cranky as a character, and it's fun, and it's like a thing. It's obviously a coping mechanism, fun thing we do to get through, and it's all good, right? No hard feelings. We make it a point to tell the new guy of like, you don't have the right to be cranky yet. That guy has had enough years here and has seen enough things and done enough things to have the attitude of being cranky, and that's who he is. And maybe you'll be there someday or maybe you won't, but don't take on his character just because you're seeing it a lot. And so I'd rather do that than have a guy pretend not to be cranky when he naturally is, right? There's only so much fake it till you make it you can do at the 20-year mark.
Yeah, I guess.
So I actually had this conversation the other day with a guy who's getting a new guy, and there were some warnings about this new guy. And he's like, well, what should I do? Should I try to be like a mentor to him, or should I try to be like happy and like bring him up, or what should I do? I was like, you just be yourself, man. I'm like, because there's no way you can keep up the act for as long as it's going to take to get away from that guy. Like, this isn't 9 to 5 where you can put on the happy face for a couple hours when you see him. It's going to be 10 o'clock at night, and you're going to get an email from someone you don't like, and you're going to fly off the handle, and then it's going to be like, wait, I thought you were a nice guy.
Yeah.
And then your real person comes out, and then it's, you're starting all over again. So
True.
be who you are, and leaders or peers, it's up to us to tell them, like, you're not allowed to be cranky yet. Find a reason to be cranky in the next 15 years and then take that on, but don't just do it because this salty dork is doing it over here.
Yeah, but I think that even at that 20-year mark, if you're finding yourself to be that cranky person all the time, like maybe you need to find something that's going to lighten up those cranky calls for you, because it's still your job.
Yeah.
You chose to do this. You knew, what, did you think you were going to do it for 10 years and be done? Like, you knew when you signed up. Like,
yeah.
So whether that's like making a bet with chores with somebody, whether it's like something fun, figure it out, because that ain't good for you and no one around you.
I mean, they probably won't, so like we can figure it out for them and try to drag them back to the depths.
So yeah. Or be that person. Be the person who's going to try to lighten them up, and then if they're not, just, I don't know.
No, that's a good point, because I'll tell you that you would be shocked, because I've watched it a few times, of how willing and ready and happy people are when you stop being a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, you get into this thing where you're like, well, I've been the cranky guy, I have to keep being the cranky guy. And if I'm not the cranky guy now, people are going to think I'm weak or a liar, or I'm giving in, or I'm softening or something like that, right?
Yeah.
We've had cranky guys turn over a new leaf, and people are like, finally, you're not a dick anymore. This is great. And they're like, really? They're like, yeah, that was fun for you, but like it wore off.
Yeah.
And it wasn't fun, and then we're happy you're not that way anymore,
Yeah.
I also say that those people typically have other redeeming values, right? And so don't write them off just because they're cranky about one thing. If they come in there just a jerk about everything, and everything's the worst ever, then that's its own case, right?
Yeah.
But if this one type of call or inspections or pub ed, if one thing is their button, I mean, we all have our buttons,
Yeah,
right?
for
So
sure.
let's not make this more of a thing than it has to be.
For sure.
And
We're
that's
also
when you can
human.
tell them, like, I know this is something you hate doing, just like keep it under wraps for 10 minutes, and then we'll be done with it.
Yeah, or we'll get ice cream after.
Something. Like, I'm totally
You gotta
fine
bribe
with
'em.
transactional leadership. That's
So
fine. I
the-
learned about that too this weekend.
The point of all this truly was, even on our podcast, we obviously talk about like things that we both, or I think is a problem, and then you give me your point of it, or vice versa, whatever.
Yeah.
You also scroll and you see everyone presenting what the problems were. And I was reading an article by Chief Rhodes in a fire engineering magazine, and it
Dusty?
basically, what?
Never mind.
I'm going to ignore that. Anyway, I was reading in there, and we were talking about retention and all that stuff. Or it was talking about retention, and the problem is, like, we see so much negative. There's always the negative about the fire service, but whether it's, like, the cancer or the PFAs or the leadership problems or this and stuff, that we always forget to talk about the good parts of it. And there are good parts, but we forget a lot. And I had a good call. It's not a good call for the person, however, it was a good outcome, and those were the calls that make you remember why you love this job so much.
Sure.
And so I was lucky enough to be a part of a code, which we had a paramedic student running at the time because they're right on their charge calls. This man went down in the backyard, had literally everything that could be going against him was going against him. He was very large. Lucas did not fit. Had a history of a triple bypass. Had diabetes and had a seizure disorder.
Sick.
So, and was pretty young in his 50s. So everything and anything, and it was like the farthest part of our district.
Yeah.
So I was on the truck. We were coming as like the assisting ALS. Ran down there. Cops must have, I think cops ended up.
Narcaned him.
What?
Cops gave him Narcan.
No, they did not give Narcan. Well, who knows? Maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe.
Slammed 12 of Narcan in his head right away.
They shocked him. So they
nice.
shocked him. So by the time I was down there, they had said that they had a pulse. Oop, sorry. They said that they had a pulse. Got him in the back of the ambulance, lost him, shocked him, I think 2 more times. All while we're doing this paramedic student is running this, right?
Yeah.
We got a pulse back. Listening to the student give his report was great. Like, I was able to assist all these people who I was on this shift a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It was like my favorite shift ever. And so we all worked pretty well. There wasn't much, like talk or communication. Everything just went really well. And the student did amazing. And so I was lucky to be on that. But by the time we got to the ambulance, I said his name, and he was able to look at me. And then by the time the ambulance was leaving, he was up and talking.
Are you the angel of death?
I'm the Grim Reaper.
Just scowling at him. He's like, never mind.
Put me out of my misery.
Never mind. It was a bad idea. I'm out of here.
Yeah, no, but seriously, that was actually my first call I've been a part of that we had someone actually up and talking. Leaving the hospital, and so that's like just the cool. That's the coolest feeling.
Yeah,
truly, like that's when you're just like, I love this job.
And then what was the next one? What was the next call right after that? Like 2 days later, when you got your next call?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Did I get another good call?
No, probably not.
No,
That's what I'm saying is like you got you're right back from the penthouse to the doghouse.
They don't have to be right, but the calls that make me feel good don't have to necessarily be like the life-saving ones.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be when you can tell like. I'll try to keep this a very short story.
I'll test you.
But long ago, I had a parathyroid tumor that was messing with my hormones and stuff, and so it caused me to have mental health problems, more so because I'm not going to totally blame the tumor.
More so than normal.
Yeah, true. That's not totally wrong.
Right.
But like it was making me. I was really sick. I was sick, and I was in. So I did end up in a mental hospital for some of the depression and all that stuff that was going through and stuff. And this entire time I had had this tumor for years, and I had bad blood work, and absolutely no doctors were saying anything about it. And so as someone who has been in those situations where they want to blame mental health, and there's actually a underlying health, like medical problem going on. Yeah. I've been on like calls like that where I can, whether it's a psych call or it's a call that something's going on and this person may or may not be having anxiety. I'm not like, and I can relate to those people, and those people I can tell are very happy that I'm the person back there.
Yeah. Those
mean more to me too. Like those are just as equal as when I can be a positive thing in the back and not, assume this person's having anxiety and actually do like a workup on them in the back, or like
you can validate their concerns,
their concerns. Or if it's a psychiatric patient who feels a certain way because everyone thinks they're crazy and all this stuff, and I can be like, hey, like I was where you were. I also was, like I went to a hospital too, and I was where you were, and I understand how hard it is, and to make them feel like they're not not normal. Like when you're in that situation, people think of you as like some nutcase, or like that you're not a normal person. So if I can do that for somebody, that makes me feel good. There's just as much as a guy coming back to life, even though when he saw me, he probably didn't want to. But that guy went home to his family.
Get that child away from me.
Yeah, but we forget about that.
Well, yeah, you forget, and I think to a certain point, depending on your call volume, you get to a point, I remember we talked about this, not on the podcast before, but you get to a point where you're like, you run a string of calls, dozens of them, and you say to yourself, literally anyone could have done that call. Like, I in no way impacted that call any direction besides the way he was going to go
That
no matter
doesn't
what.
feel good.
Right?
A lot of the
And
times.
you're like, a trained monkey could have done what I just did for the past 6 months on this ambulance. Like, there was nothing special I pulled out. There was no advanced tactic that I knew about that no one else did. Like, anybody on this job could have done what I just did. So what am I? I'm just filling space, you know?
It's like a void.
Yeah, it's just a lack of fulfillment, right? Because you feel like you're just
Yeah.
you're not finding fulfillment in helping people because you are helping people, but not in the way that you envision as purposeful
Right.
or important, right? But then I also had to change my opinion on like what you can find value in. So like I used to be, if somebody needed to be tubed or a hard IV or something like that, I'd be like, well, I can do that. Like I can be the guy that makes that better for my skills or whatever. Now it's like, well, most people can do that. I'd rather be the one trying to make heads-up plays around the scene, like coordinating different things or thinking ahead or making other stuff easier for incoming companies, because then they're like, wow, that made a little bit of a difference in how this went, you know? So it just changes as you get more years on and your position changes. Like now I'd rather help someone with advice and keep them out of trouble or keep them from doing something boneheaded. That has as much fulfillment to me as like resuscitation, you know, because it just changes roles. Like I've had, not to sound like dickish, but like I've done that, I've had that, and it still feels great when it happens, but like there's also stuff I can be valuable with outside of that role. And so yeah, sometimes you just got to recalibrate that stuff, right?
Yeah.
In another 10 years you might be like, I'm sick of the ambulance, I don't care anymore, I don't want to do this. But if you don't pivot, you're gonna have nothing to find value in. So then it's like,
So,
well, maybe I can find value in doing something else, another,
like teaching people.
just like that. If you take 10 years to teach people, we're going to be in trouble. Why don't you tell people about that? We're 27 minutes. Read your ads.
Oh shoot!
Did
you
want
want me to do the ads first?
No.
I
We can make an announcement, though, because I didn't make it about part of that AFFI podcast was I said on the podcast.
Did you say on there
that in 2026 we're going to start teaching?
Yeah. So 2026, Chris and I are going to start teaching fire departments.
We're going back out.
Yeah.
If you followed this podcast for a while, you know that this became a thing when COVID started, because before that I was going out to departments and doing lectures and seminars and stuff and running workouts, and then I couldn't, and then I was like, I'll just start talking more. And then I tell you what happened, it became really easy not to schedule myself on my off days to go out to departments anymore. And but I think we're at that point. You want to teach, I like doing it. The kids are going to be in 3-day-a-week school soon. Sawyer's in 3-day-a-week preschool starting September. So we want to get out and do more conferences, attending, and also having booths there and doing like podcasts from the conference, just grabbing people, passing out buttons that are explicit and asking their take on it, which I gave.
I saw that you didn't have the other button.
I don't, because that doesn't represent me. But I gave some to Joe and Andy.
Awesome.
And then also going out to departments and teaching on strength and conditioning, mental health and wellness, overall wellness, topics that you guys like in the podcast, stuff like that. So
we want to make a difference.
Look for us in 25 to be in the public more, and then in 26
to be
line some stuff
hopefully
up
at your department.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Definitely.
So, Rescue 1 CBD.
0.000 THC. Safe for the job.
15% off. Use code TAILBOARD. You can also hit the Buy Me a Coffee button. That there really is not a button, but you can definitely find one. It would be underneath the podcast, depending on which one.
There's a link on the podcast notes.
Go to.
There's a button on the website, the 4th Shift Firefighter website.
Yes. Buy us some coffee because it's going to contribute to us going to the conferences and us teaching departments. It would mean a whole lot because we really want to help everybody. And then we are sporting our Frontline Optics.
They can't see you, but good job putting them on for that delivery.
Sunglasses. Don't forget that you guys also get a percentage off of that using the code TAILBOARD. These are awesome. They are OSHA certified.
What are you holding right now and touching?
My lenses.
Yeah, they can't see that.
I'm sorry. I'm Italian, all right?
You're wearing the Pomonas.
Yes.
Pomona Commanders.
They're gold and they are sexy.
Yeah, so we learned last episode that they're ANSI rated and OSHA approved.
Yep.
So
they do very special things, and they go to a very special foundation.
Yep, and I also found out firsthand after Katie destroyed mine that you get the free replacement thing. It works.
Did she sit on them?
No,
That's what I ended up.
Freak accident, but Frontline had my back, so it's all good.
And then.
Okay.
That's it.
I think so.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, run us out with the tagline.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Stay sharp. Stay resilient.
Ooh.
Stay sexy in your
What?
personas.
Okay.